This podcast is produced by Sunnydale Studios.
I don't want just anybody. Let me treat you like somebody. Try to dive on a Rari. This forever, we ain't stopping.
Hello, lovers. Welcome to episode 10 of Big Love Energy. In this episode, we are joined by a very special guest, health and wellness coach, my best mate and partner in love, Haydn. We talk about navigating love for the second time round, doing the work, and answer some of your love letters. I hope you enjoy. Hello, welcome to Big Love Energy. Today we've got Haydn on the potty. I feel like an excited little girl having you on the show. I'm like literally already sweating, but you've been such an amazing support of the podcast and me while I endeavour into this new world, and so it's quite fitting to have you on today. Welcome, Haydn.
Thanks for having me.
You're so serious. It's good.
For now.
No, for now. I've been dying to get you on the show. It is called Big Love Energy, and you are my love. I'm trying not to be cheesy, but it will happen. Yeah, and I want to have you on because your story, is one of the most inspiring stories that I know, and I just wanted to share that with my community and anyone who comes across it, because I think there's so much value in what you've been through, and it's a space that isn't talked about often, and your story gives me so much hope for men all over the world. So that's why I've got you on today. Plus there's a whole bunch of fun stuff. We put out a question box to the listeners, and a lot of spice came through, so we'll do our best to get through that. I think we did try and do it on our Instagram once, but it was pretty early days and we thought we might leave that for a little bit.
Yeah, some dodgy questions.
Yeah, dodgy questions came through. But I want to go straight into, I just want you to first off tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, and a bit of the lifestyle growing up. You from around these parts?
Nah, no. Yeah, well, Haydn is who I am. I've been over here coming on 12 years. I grew up on a farm in New Zealand, just outside of Hamilton. So the two islands, the big one up the top, right in the middle of there, just outside of there on a small farm. I think there's probably only about 10,000 people there. So yeah, I grew up on a farm most of my life till I was about 13, then had to move to the city because there's just no schools big enough for you. So you have to shift off to the city. And then, apart from that, I was fortunate to play rugby professionally, semi-professionally, three places all over the world. So New Zealand, Australia and England. And then ended up going back home and then thought, this isn't for me, New Zealand. With my brain and how it works, I just needed more opportunities. So one came up to play rugby over here, and the rest is sort of just history, really. Haven't left.
Amazing. And
So, yeah.
I remember when we first started talking, the part of New Zealand you're from actually translates to Rosetown.
It is the Rose Town. It's called the Rose Town.
That
It's
got
the
me.
third best town in New Zealand to live in, apparently.
Oh,
I
really?
don't know how accurate that is.
It
But
looks-
it's got lots of roses, yeah. It's called the Rose Town.
I have a rose tattooed on my body.
Mm.
True. I love that. I can't. That you showed me photos, and it looks like a very idyllic part of the world.
Yeah.
I guess from there, we'd love to know what you just said. You got to Oz because of rugby.
Yeah.
But one of the listener cues that came up a fair bit that I thought I would steal for the beginning of this potty is how we met.
Yeah, right.
And it's like we've been together over a year now, but we did meet a while back.
Probably.
I can't put a year on it.
Probably 2014.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yep.
He says about this time I was looking at opening up the gym. 2014.
Yep.
Yeah, into 2014 or something.
You were
like that. I went coming down to Outfit. I think I
Yeah.
came in to see Jamie to order my equipment for the gym or
Yeah.
suss it out.
Yeah.
Because I had a business partner, Blake, at the time, and I knew Jamie through competing, and then he's like, come on down. And yeah,
So
early
Haydn
days.
was this star professional CrossFitter, and
I don't know if there's much. I don't know if you can call
Don't
people
be humble.
professional CrossFitters. You probably can't. You can now.
but I was
I got free
design-
stuff. That's why.
You got free
lots of
stuff
free.
from where I was working.
Yeah.
So I was designing at a a place called Alpha Fit. Shout out to Jamie.
Hey, Jamie.
Gold Coast-based business that a lot of people would know and recognize the brand. It's all the gym gear you see and all the gyms that have like the weights and box jumps and all like rigs. And I was designing for them at a pretty grassroots level. And yeah, I remember, I think we met once like in person, but Haydn was one of our ambassadors at the time. And I remember thinking, geez, that's a manly looking man. But like obviously both in different relationships and yeah, not much was said at that time, but probably, yeah, it would have been, just over a year ago, old mate slipped into the DMs.
Yeah, that was it. Didn't get a reply for ages. I was like, okay.
I was like, what is he messaging me for?
Humbling experience.
And then you got me with the kids. You asked a question about I'd taken Raf to like a trading card place.
That's right, the card stuff.
And I was like, oh, I felt a bit sorry for
Sorry for me.
and thought,
it's a sob story.
I better help him out with this. And I don't think you've been there since. I don't think you actually took my advice, but you got your answer. And pretty much straight away, when we started talking, I don't know, there was this, I had obviously a pretty big wall up having been through what I've been through. So I, it was a hard egg to crack, but yeah, just the way you went about things and how chatty you were and just so like authentic. I was like, oh, this is really refreshing to talk to someone that just wants to have a nice chat. And then I think we met in person and then that was it. Yeah. Yep. It was on. Done. It was on, signed, sealed, delivered. But yeah, it was a time and yeah, it's a nice story. Yeah. Yeah.
It's nice and simple.
Yeah. And I do think there was a few, I'm going to keep going. You're like, oh gosh. I do love that prior to us actually properly meeting over the years, like we were always seemed to be close to each other. Like there was always a link there somewhere. Yeah,
we weren't too far away. Like even if the gym around the road, I don't know you're working there, but stuff like that and how we didn't even bump into each other. And we probably might not even have said hello to each other, but we'd never even seen each other. So pretty strange how the world works. But.
Yeah, definitely connected. So I feel like I got a fast track knowing you when I listened to your 4-part series, Growing Up Differently. You did have a podcast there for a while and you've been on many since. So this is like nothing for you. But
it's a little bit more professional than my setup and my
I love that about you.
At home, on my phone.
You are like, I love that about you, that you would just literally be like, I'm going to do a podcast and then nothing stops you. You just get into it. And what the outcome of that is normally so valuable because me listening to your potty at that time, I think that's probably one of the reasons why I hit accept on your messages at one point, because I was like, oh, he's got some substance, which is really what I was, open, like that was all I was going to let in. And I would love for you to just summarize or like have a fair dig at sort of sharing your story, because I think there's so much value in it.
Probably if anyone has listened to it, thanks for that. I hope you got something out of it, but if you haven't, kind of starts out as a young kid, being in a household of pretty heavy domestic violence at a young age, but wasn't young enough to forget it. It was right at that prime age where I literally remember everything. So that sort of age was probably that 6 to 9, which is probably a period where you can really visually remember things and what's going on enough to be like, that's not okay. The hard thing was when you're that young, you can't do anything about it. You have no control over anything. So that was hard. And then taking that into high school and bearing it, and sort of feeling like you're the only one, which again, when you're that young, you think that you're the only one going through that sort of stuff. But I guarantee at the time, there's probably lots of other kids going through the same stuff, whether or not they've dealt with it. But you get to high school and you can't be rolling up at high school telling everyone about what you've seen and what you've done, because coming from small communities and towns, everyone knows each other and it's very hush-hush most of the time. So I had to sort of bury all that. I pretty much buried it because I was good at sport, multiple sports, and I'd keep busy by forgetting about things like that through sport and excelling. And that was sort of like where I got accepted of being normal, I suppose. I don't really like using the word normal, but of people going, see, he's fine.
Yeah.
He's okay. He's killing it. He's doing all these great things. And most of the time I was just like, wow, this is just a little bit of an outlet. And if I wasn't playing sport, I was trying to hang out with friends all the time. It was like, didn't want to be alone too much. And I am an only child. So I was always out and about and social and had to force myself to, continue to move on at a young age.
Yep.
So yeah, that was a pretty hard transition. And then I went through that, got through high school, and I really enjoyed high school. Many good friends still from there. Got to, meet lots of people playing at different high-level sports and travel all over the country and do cool stuff as well. Ended up even traveling overseas for sport and stuff like that at school. And then left school, and, when you've been through that, you're like, oh, yep, yeah, I'm good to go. And then at would have been, I think I was 20. I was at the races with friends, drinking and carrying on as you do at the races. My dad kept ringing me, and I was like, why do you want to stop ringing me? And he was ringing me to tell me that my mum died. So I got home, and then I was like, I'm going to answer it because, I just felt guilty for maybe not answering because he usually doesn't ring that much.
And your parents weren't together, were they?
They're not together. They separated when we were very young, but remained like the best of friends.
Yeah.
So,
So
the relationship between them was always good.
Yeah.
Sorry, so that wasn't dad doing that stuff. That was mum's second and third relationship. That was the violent one. Dad wouldn't hurt a fly. Never heard him raise his voice, but yeah, he normally doesn't ring that much, and it's not something that you're going to leave on a voicemail. So I was like, what's going on? And then, the last thing you expect is that. So I went through that at 20. And she passed away from a brain aneurysm. So if you don't know what that is, they actually got good technology on it now, which they actually clip parts of your brain to stop the brain exploding, I suppose, is a real.
And you guys were super close.
We're super close because I grew up with her the whole time.
Yeah.
And she was there for everything. So yeah, she passed away at 20, and then what do you really do when you're 20? You start drinking pretty heavily, partying and suppressing that, and then all the other stuff as well. So it was like a lot of stuff that I was going through at the time. But again, sport kind of got a contract to play semi-pro pro in England at 20, and it was a perfect time because I got to get away from people
checking in.
People were asking me the same questions every single day. Are you all right? I was like, what do you think? And it's not their fault. They were genuinely just trying to check up on me. But at the time, I was like, I need to get away from people. And most of those people I'd grown up with my whole life. Yeah. So they were asking those questions all the time, and I'd sort of had enough. And I went over to England, played rugby there for a couple of years, and come back and was super refreshed. And but still hadn't done any work on all that stuff either. So it was still there, and it would come out from time to time. It wasn't too noticeable, but it was there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the safety blanket. I think people go, oh, it's not too bad. And then all of a sudden they go through life, they make all these big life decisions, and then it just bottles up, right? Yeah. And how did it come out for you?
It never really came out in a bad way. I was just, when I look back now, I was just never happy. Yeah. I wasn't the kid that I grew up with, I grew up with around my family and friends and stuff. I was a lot shorter. I got frustrated way easier, and I had not like a chip on my shoulder, but it was just, things got to me really easy. Yeah. And I look back now and I was like, it's because there was so much rage in there. Yeah. But I never got into trouble. I never used it with violence or anything like that. Like, I never got into trouble. Yeah. You have a couple of dust ups with your mates and a couple of stuff like that, but it was never like me an intention of going out and hurting anyone from it. I was just, didn't really know how to deal with it. And at the time, most of my friends were way too young to open up safe spaces. They didn't even know what that was. Yeah. Some of them probably are just getting into that sort of stuff now. So I kind of wish I had probably someone else that was older around or had been through some stuff to sort of guide me. Yeah. But then also I managed to get through it by myself and go myself through it as well. So yeah, I'm not going to sort of say that I wish this and that, but that was part of my journey that made me who I am today. So yeah.
Yeah, amazing. So we'll go to a bit lighter now. I absolutely love your dedication to health. Like, in fact, one of the listener questions that came through was, how does he get those abs?
Abs. How do I get my abs? Training lots, eating good.
But most look at you and think you're all about chucking around weights. It's very aesthetic, but I love that you are a geek for, I can't even say it, naturopathy.
Yeah, there's probably a few ways to
the
say
herbs.
it, yeah.
You love hanging around flanneries and putting together all the bits and pieces, and you always have like a little pile of herbs for me in the morning in capsules that take this and or with all funny names. What's the story there? How did that come about?
I think early on aesthetics was like it's nice to look good, obviously, but what can you do with it? And you know, if you can't do much with it, then it's kind of pointless, to be honest. Well, for me, that's my opinion on it. Like, you got to be able to use your body. So, I was always into looking after myself and looking good, but it was probably when I moved over to Australia, actually, I got heavily into it because I was running a sports store called Mr. Vitamins, and they were the biggest supplement company in the Southern Hemisphere. But they had 7 naturopaths on every day. Yeah. And I was there for, you know, almost 18 months, 2 years working with naturopaths every day, and I was running the other section. Yeah. And just being super open-minded, I just would pick their brains all the time and learn. And I just started competing in CrossFit. I was like, how do I recover more? Can this make me go faster? Can this make me be less sore? And they're like, oh yeah, like Chinese medicine is insane when you get really, really into it. And, you know, they've been doing this since 1800s and stuff, and they're still doing it every day now. And I'm like, why isn't Western society doing this? Yeah. So I remember taking a mushroom that's now trending now, like 9 years ago, and now everyone wants it from Byron Bay. But, you know, you go to a naturopath and they've been running that stuff for, you know, decades. Yeah. So I started trying it, and I'd have less burnout. I could sleep better I haven't been diagnosed with it, but probably part ADHD.
100%.
I was able to concentrate a lot more, focus on things, and not overthink and burn out. And then the sleeping at night, not just staring at the ceiling, trying to have a million things going around in your head. All that stuff really helped. And then I started getting everyone else onto it, even the guys I competed against. Yeah. And everyone's still taking it to this day. So it's it's just me asking questions about how I can be better day to day is probably how I got into the naturopath side of things. It's probably illegal, but I used to mix all my own concoctions up. They showed me. I wasn't selling it to anyone, but mix it up for myself out the back, and ginsengs and cordyceps and ashwagandha and everything you can imagine all in one, and licorice for stress and all this stuff. And I've taken it ever since. So
it's sexy.
Yeah.
So you have your background with rugby and CrossFit. You've owned a couple of CrossFit gyms in your time, and you're not doing that anymore. Now your passion is obviously health and fitness, and now you've gone in a different route. Yeah. Tell us a bit about what you're doing these days.
I had an idea years ago. It sort of got pushed aside and said it wouldn't work. And if someone ever tells me that something's not going to work, I just get it's even more fuel for me to just prove them wrong. So I knew it would work. It just probably, even at the time, it probably wasn't a good time for it, lucky, especially when COVID came on. So what I've been doing is corporate health and wellness programs. So I go into big corporate companies and I create a gym on site for them. We get a nutritionist to come on, which is a good friend of mine, Jake Campus. And we work with hundreds of corporates on site, and it's all paid for by the company.
So good.
So some of them are saving up to 20, 30 grand a year on health. And in these times, people are more health conscious, but with people not wanting to work, its retention of employees is gone up. And we've had 30% increase in less sick days and more productivity. And that was only in the first 9 months. Yep. So I opened up a second one now, and it'll be 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and hopefully hundreds of them
Yeah, just a
everywhere.
change in thinking and way of doing things. Like it's just, creating a space at work where you actually want to be at work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just the time, like if you've got kids or you've got other stuff going on in your life, getting up an extra hour earlier or an extra hour later in the day, you've got to think that that's time where they could be going home spending with their loved ones. And why are they working these ridiculous hours? Because productivity wise, they're going to be tired the next day and there's no outlet. So there's a lot of stuff that we're sort of collecting data on at the moment about that. And probably in the newest one is everyone's sleep.
Yeah.
They've got, I can sleep now.
Yeah.
Which means they're recovering, which means productivity is going to be automatically increased the next day, which means the company makes more money. So there's a massive sort of push for it now, and people are doing it. We're just lucky we kept very silent for 12 months.
Yeah.
And collected all the data, and now we can pretty much go to any company and they'd be pretty silly to say no at those numbers.
Yeah, pretty
which
hard
is cool.
to deny. Yeah.
The only reason they will deny is if they don't have space.
Yeah.
So so that's what we've been doing.
Yeah, it's pretty cool that there's been forward-thinking CEOs out there willing to spend the money and take a leap. And you've been so hands-on. I think that's like the buy-in as well. Is that you're a big part of making it happen. And you're so, it's pretty wild the hours that you've spent into being there.
I remember getting up at like 3 a.m, going out there, get home at 6, 7 o'clock at night sometimes. But it's different. So going on a little bit of a stray here, but if you're a strength and conditioning coach, PT, whatever you want to class yourself as, you usually do your work in your place, your safe space, like your place where you're comfortable in. And that's fine. It's a different tone. You teach them differently and it's a completely different world. When you're going into someone's work, you can't go in there and start barking orders at them. You have to go in there and understand what they do for work, how stressed they are, learn to know how many kids they got, what's their dog's name, what's their cat's name, and really understand who they are as people before you walk in there and start going, you need to hurry up and train, you're overweight. Because I tell you now, it's not going to work. They're going to tell you to fuck off. And then the CEO is going to go, thanks, you just pissed off the person who brings in me the most money. Yeah. So there's a whole different thing. And that's where I'm going to create my own certifications in 12 to 18 months on how to train people in corporate spaces. So.
Yeah, right. He's a brain. I like it.
But it's been fun. And the journeys where I think I always get it a bit wrong, but it's around about 680 kilos of fat loss last year and 370 kilos of lean muscle mass.
Within one corporation?
9 months. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's something like that. It's, Jake knows the exact numbers, but it's not far off that. And now it'd be way more because we've been going sort of 14, 15 months. So.
Yeah, no, I've seen it firsthand. It's super impressive. And just having 2 experts in their fields has been, so amazing for, anyone that gets involved. And I've been a client of Jakey's as well, and he's the best in the biz when it comes to nutrition. So to have that within a company alongside you is pretty exciting. Exciting times. What's that called? What's the whole thing?
Workwell Collective is my one. And obviously Jake, we just subcontract, but he'll always be Jacob Campus Nutrition now. Yeah,
amazing. So, you did mention that ADHD brain, like you train a lot. Do you feel like that is, you train heaps to sort of just get you to a space where you can shut off at night? Like
Nah, I don't even, it started really young, the training, 15, 16.
Yeah, right.
Training double days.
Yeah.
So we used to have to train at school for rugby, and then I had to con my mum into paying like $18 a week down at this gym, and then I go train again, and then I go to rugby training.
Yeah, right.
So it's like 3 sessions a day when I was like 16.
Yeah.
And I'd walk there by myself.
Were the other kids doing that?
There was a couple of us. If you were sort of in that high performance sort of, was also sort of, we looked at it as like, okay, we're going to be playing against these big adults when we get out of school. So they'd sort of, it was like a transition into that. And there was so many of us that were like, come from small town, like we want to crack it.
Yeah.
Or we need to be ready for it. And some of the big schools like Hamilton Boys High and stuff like that already had these processes.
Yeah.
We were lucky enough to have 2 very, very high level coaches now that are still coaching high level at our school teaching.
Yeah.
And they sort of instilled in
it.
like, if you need to do this, else it's a no-go.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're pretty careful, and that's where I sort of got into the supplement world too. Is they started feeding us up on the protein and creatine and all this stuff, and got fascinated with it. And there was probably about 3 or 4 of us that took it really seriously, and we all ended up playing.
Yeah.
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 So, yeah.
How do you find you still prioritize your own health and fitness? Like, you're a single dad and juggling with 2 small kids. Like, how do you find the time to train? Obviously, you're surrounded by gym goers all the time, but you go over and beyond, and you keep my butt in shape. So what's the drive there? Is it just the general want for people just to be feeling their best?
For myself, I think I'm always chasing some ridiculous goal.
Yeah.
Deep down, like with the stuff I've got going on at the moment, I'm trying to achieve. So
yeah, what's the record that I say where?
Yeah.
I feel like I'm very invested.
Be the first person in the world to double bodyweight bench and run a sub 4-hour marathon in the same day. Even if you could even put it in a 5-hour window if you wanted.
Yeah.
It's never been done.
Yeah.
People are bridging the gap with a lot of things, and there's a lot of crazy stuff happening, but that one very left field because they're 2 different.
Yeah.
Completely different. Sometimes when you deadlift, you get the best because it builds endurance and a little bit of capacity through your posterior. So running sort of goes hand in hand with it. They sort of complement each other, but these 2 are just so far off each other. It's like a pure leg endurance with a pure upper body strength.
Yeah.
So I'm always chasing something like that, and always will. So in the back of my mind, but then it's just me being better at things. Like you running the half marathon and me running a marathon, I'll probably run 100K or something eventually in my life.
Pushing.
And it's usually just based on work ethic, just try and outwork everyone.
Yeah.
And if my kids can see that, whether it's through sport, work, but it also translates over into work now. So if I'm training very hard, my work's
better.
It increases as well.
Yeah.
So it's like just a flow-on effect. So as soon as I sort of button off, it's not that I do much, but you can see everything. Oh, yeah. You know, that type of attitude. And that's when I start getting frustrated, and I'm not the nicest person to be around. So just keep moving.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So with the whole, the work, we're going to talk about the work in healing, which we talked about this throughout the week, that healing is a bit of a double-edged sword. You feel like you never should aim to be fully healed.
No, I think it just gets thrown around when people feel like they're not quite themselves. They're like, I need to heal. And like, well, what are you actually healing from?
Yeah. Can you actually pinpoint?
Yeah. Or are you just, being a victim?
Yeah.
Because and I'm not saying that just for the sake of it. There's a lot of people out there that have been through a lot worse stuff than me.
Yep.
But I think it does get thrown around a bit too much now. Like, I'm going on a healing journey, and I'm like, you're 16. Like, you need to live a little bit more and deal with things a little bit differently. And I think I don't think you'll ever really heal from those things. No. I just think you'll understand how to cope with reoccurring stuff coming back from it, and understand maybe why it happened or all these things. And I think that's it, is having knowledge on what happened is probably going to be the best thing for you. Yeah. Because it might come again in life. Yeah. So I don't think you ever actually really heal from something.
Yeah, I think you just build resilience.
Yeah.
And at what point did you know that your stuff was your stuff, and that you need to sort of start that journey from to sort of identify what you went through? Was there a certain point in time? Was it a visit home, and what sort of started your sort of
like going through obviously divorce and stuff like that, but I went home, spent a lot of time with Dad for 6 weeks, and then because we've always been close, but I always lived with Mum most of the time, and I still see Dad, but it wasn't like I have with my kids. And that was just due to work. And I fully understand that. Had to work long hours and stuff like that. And but went and spent 6 weeks back there with him, and he's always just had this thing like, everything will be fine. Yeah. And I'm like, used to frustrate me.
Yeah.
And I'm like, whatever, mate. Like,
Yeah. It's not going
fuck right now.
Yeah.
And he's always been the calmest, and I still have never heard him raise his voice.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, and
Because your mum was quite fiery.
she's fiery. She's
Yeah.
where I get my sort of fiery side from, 100%, the fiery Irish. And then, yeah, he just kept telling me, and I'd talk about it and try and justify things to him all the time.
Yep.
And he'd go, it's done.
Yep.
Get over it.
Yeah.
Everything will be all right.
Mm.
Every single day, he would have said that to me for 6 weeks.
Yeah.
Just reassuring the whole time. Boom,
Yep.
boom.
Yeah.
Every day, probably 3 times a day sometimes. And I was like, oh, yeah, no, it'll work out. And he's like, nah. Because I know but then I look back now, and I only noticed this the other day when I was talking to him, because he's actually getting married again, is he's been through it
Yeah.
multiple times, and he knows the feeling of it, and he also knows that everything is going to be all right.
Yeah.
So it's like, couldn't have been anyone better in the situation
Yeah.
to hang out with.
Yeah. And you had a moment with him that makes me emotional.
Oh, yeah. So, yeah, Dad started crying, and then it was a song, and then hugged me, and he said he wasn't there enough when I was younger and should have been more hands-on and things like that. So that's why I'm pretty hands-on with the kids, I think.
Yeah, you said that's pretty much all you needed, really, was a big, long hug.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that apology almost.
And you usually probably get that a little bit more from your mum,
Yeah.
to be honest.
Yeah.
And that would have been probably mum if she was still around.
Yeah.
But it was nice for Dad to sort of step up and take the reins, and yeah, so it was cool. And we have such a better relationship now.
Yeah.
I'm lucky to have 2 very open-minded parents.
Yeah.
So there was nothing that was a no-go, or
Yeah.
they wouldn't discriminate against anything. It was like, oh, yeah, cool. Like,
If it makes them happy.
if you want to do this, then go for it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm trying to do that with my kids as well.
Yeah.
If they like something, go for it. Then I'm not going to force them into anything.
Yeah.
And coming from a rugby family, no one forced us into rugby.
Yeah.
But I think that's why we enjoyed it so much, because we weren't like, you have to be good at this, you have to
Yeah.
perform, and
Yeah.
yeah. So it was nice.
So good. We're going to go into our segments because there's plenty more to talk about over there. Lots of little cheeky questions. First up, love letters. Love letters. Question number 1. It says, what is Jessie's best and worst trait, and vice versa? So you can go first.
Best.
Oh, gosh.
Ooh. Probably listening.
Oh.
Just listening, I reckon. Because I talk a lot. If you can't tell, sometimes it's absolute shit as well. But you just sit there and you're like, she's probably like, what the fuck? And then worst, oh no, gets me every week.
Oh.
I'm gonna be there at 6, leaves at 5 to 6, and I'm like, ooh. And I'm a person who is an hour early. I'm that person, the weirdo that's really early. Not quite an hour, but I'm always early.
I'm a busy person.
I know, but you shouldn't tell me you're going to be there at 6. Tell me you'll be there at 6:30.
Okay.
And that's
My turn. My turn.
There you go.
Best would be that you talk so much in a good way, that you are a communicator. Haydn always, I remember early on, I just remember thinking, everyone's 3 favorite words is I love you, but for me, his 3 words that he'd always say to me was talk to me. And for someone who's quite used to like not communicating and bottling things up, because there wasn't ever really an open space to talk about feelings, to have someone constantly like prodding me to be like, speak your feelings, is like my absolute favorite thing. I think that's why we work so well, because I finally have a chance to talk and have plenty to say, and we just talk so much in a real, like, it's just that, end of the day, winding down, get everything out on the table. It's just, I think, makes for such a healthy relationship.
Yeah, it's good. It's nice because there's only really one thing you can do if you have no one to listen.
Yeah,
is just bottle it up, and that's how it is. So it shouldn't be.
No, it's not. Not how it's supposed to be. My worst trait is that he talks so much.
Is it?
It comes with this. Sometimes I don't know. It's like, let's just say that I have to always have my AirPods on standby because he's on the road a lot. He's always driving from one client to the next, and I love it. Like I said, I love it, but also sometimes I'm like, oh, there's so much chat. And we talk all the time, but it's good. But no, maybe the punctuality. You are too early sometimes. I'm not ready for you. You're too early. But yeah, there's not much I can fault really. Question number 2, balancing split families. I need all the advice I can get. How we sort of balance, like we're pretty independent people. Like whilst we've
got our own stuff going on.
Yeah.
Which
and
is probably pretty key.
A bit of a blessing in disguise. I think if you had less going on, I'd be constantly like, where are you at? Like, let's hang out, let's do this.
Yeah.
But I think what's been really important for both of us is just to keep, like, whilst we're a solid partnership and know where there's no like insecurities of where, I think that's how I'm able to sort of just focus on my stuff and you're able to focus on yours, is that we know completely where our loyalties lie and that we're there for each other 100%. But with the busyness of everyday life and running businesses and kids, so we've got to actually keep quite focused on our own agendas really.
Yeah.
And give each other the space to do that and not get too like, oh, hey. Yeah,
being needy would get hard in those.
Yeah.
Because then the person who is busy would probably get frustrated.
Yeah.
And you could see clashing heads there. So you definitely need your own stuff going on.
Yeah. Yeah. I think if on a more general sense, if you're struggling to balance the split families, I think just having your own identities as a family going on, like definitely come together and make that time for each other. But you always say to me, like, we've got so much time ahead of us, there's no rush.
Yeah.
And I agree. It's just like when you get so focused on the next thing, like it's best to look at the bigger picture and do it that way.
Yeah, that's kind of how life rolls, though, unfortunately.
Yeah.
It's just take it as it comes.
Yeah. And I think when we have our time together that we just make the most of it. We have such quality time connecting and talking crap and dancing in the living room together. So yeah, I think that's how we find the balance. Question 3, how does he get those abs? Is there a specific 7-minute abs that you do?
No, 7 minutes. Sign up, link below. Nah, I don't know. Everyone just, if people don't really know too much about abs, they're very genetic.
Yeah.
So, thanks, Dad.
Yeah.
I've got big, thick, chunky abs, and that's just a genetic thing. Some people have small, thin ones.
And you got big, chunky, veiny arms.
Yeah, right. So yeah, it's a genetic thing. Like you can't change what they look like.
Yeah.
All you can do is get lean enough so they show. So yeah, everyone's different there, and you'll see that with if you ever been to a physique show or bodybuilding show, everyone is completely different.
Yeah.
But obviously nutrition and training 100% helps.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's pretty much it on it. Getting lean enough that they pop out. Yeah. Then you'll be like, oh, you might be one of those people that has crazy abs. You never know. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah. Have you dropped the L bomb and who said it first? Oh. You said it first.
Did I?
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like I'm 12 on TikTok right now answering these questions.
Who are these from? 60-year-olds.
I'm gonna look at.
Bring them up.
There's still more coming through. I'll see if there's.
Yeah, well, I did then. I don't.
Yeah, you don't remember?
Not really. Probably had a few too many wines. We
have decided that if there's no I at the front, it's not as serious. You gotta say I love you.
Oh yeah. I don't know where you get this shit from, eh?
I'm a child. I'm getting hot.
Just make up your own vocabulary.
Question number 5. What has self-development look like for you? So I suppose, like, you're great. We put on the brown noise at night. We put on
Oh,
meditations. We
meditation, learning to actually meditate.
yeah.
People say they meditate every day. Don't know if that's correct.
Yeah, we've done some pretty crazy shit now.
I suppose there's like light versions, but to actually learn and do it properly for like a good hour or more, like those proper breathing meditation sessions, that's what I'd class as meditation. And you're not doing them every day.
No.
You don't need to leave the house.
Yeah. No, they take a lot out of you.
They just drain you. And a lot comes out in them if you haven't done that before, proper breath work.
Yeah, we get the ceremony cacao out and like the
so
candles.
I think that's huge if you're, but then you also have to be open enough. You can't just go in there all pent and rage and hope that you're going to release everything and everything's going to be fine the next day.
There's so many facilitators out there now as well. Like if you look up local breath work.
Yeah, I did the stuff with the men guys, WAR and all that.
Yeah.
And they're going huge now. And I used to play rugby with him back in New Zealand, so he's out there doing it. And, you know, so it's pretty interesting space. But there is lots. Just finding a space that you can get into that is
just to go deep.
Safe and comfortable, because you don't want to waste your time going there and just sit in the corner and you're not ready for it.
Yeah.
And to know when you're ready, you'll just know.
Yeah.
There's not going to be like a light bulb and you're like, I'm ready to go now. Let's go. Like, you might just need to do a little bit of even listening to certain podcasts. And like a big one for me was Peter Cron.
Yeah.
He is unbelievable.
Yeah.
Joe Dispenza, he's always pretty good.
Yeah.
There's just a couple for me that sort of just really symbolize how the world and days and what to focus on and what not to stress about and things like that. And and these guys are done thousands of brain studies.
Yeah.
So they're not just making it up.
Yeah.
So they go through all different brain types and
yeah.
teach, and some of them be like, oh, that's exactly what I do every day. I need to stop that. How do you stop that? Start doing this.
Yeah.
Just little stuff, I suppose.
Yeah. And I suppose paired with moving your body and what you eat, like
fitness and endorphins. Yeah. Not everyone's into fitness, and I get that.
Yeah.
But it might just be walking or jumping in the ocean or something in the morning. It'll release that, and you'll go, oh, this is great.
Yeah.
And that can change your whole mood, which then getting in a routine where that's the new normal, then obviously if you're a better person for that, just keep doing it. Why are you stopping?
Yeah. Yeah, make it a priority.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're going to go into our weekly segment, Flashback Faves. Flashback Faves. I would love to know, I do know, but for the listeners, what favourite songs like from way back when little Haydn.
How little are we talking?
Just those, the formative times, growing up, that sort of help shape who you are. Like, I know that we have very different playlists at home, to be honest. We always listen to Haydns.
My parents are not musos as in they played instruments, but like there was always music going. There's all different types. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I definitely, like, we know all the same old faves.
Yeah.
But you still love listening to them every day. Whereas I'm like, there's new music as well.
Yeah, I listen to new music.
So quite often he'll be like, what's this weird music? And I'm like, it's the current hits. You should give it a go.
What, Kid Leroy?
Yeah.
I'm listening to him.
There's nothing wrong with him. But no, what are some faves, like actual faves?
Younger,
like, give me two.
Yeah,
give me two.
My parents always had parties. It was always like your Dire Straits, Doobie Brothers, Rolling Stones, all that era. And I love all that music.
You love Elton
John, Prince, all that stuff.
Yeah.
I can listen to that all day, every day. So that was like a big part of like when I was younger, growing up, before high school and that.
Yes.
And it still was around at high school because I started listening to it. I'd throw parties and then that music would come out. So I think it was just everyone around.
Party boy, hey?
Shit, yeah. And then probably when I was around about 15, 14, that Nelly Country Grammar came out and changed my fucking life. I was like, rap music is the go. And then I just got heavy into that. And then, as you know, 50 Cent is my favorite rapper, and then I just went
I
crazy
believe.
from there.
Can I tell a funny story?
Go on then. No, not this. Oh yeah, that one. You can listen to it.
When Haydn was trying to win me over through the direct messages, I gave him some radio silence because life was just busy, and then about 2 weeks after me not answering any of his messages, he sent me a YouTube link to a song. He's like, have a listen to this.
Yeah,
And I was like, oh, I hope this is good. This is always a good indication of how things are going to work out. And it was
good.
You love it. It's
Everyone loves
what
it.
is it? It's 50 Cent and
Bee Gees, Staying Alive together.
Staying Alive remix.
I like the Bee Gees as well, obviously now.
And I didn't write anything back.
And I was like, this should be number one. I can't believe it's not on the radio.
Yeah, no, you can't even find it on it. It's like a remix.
Yeah,
some
I think
DJ
a few
remix.
people have done it, but
Yeah.
it's hard to find that.
But that's
version.
pretty much sums up. That's your two favorite. There's Nelly and 50 Cent.
50 Cent. I like all that stuff,
Yeah.
like G-Unit and all
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, and he does.
But then I like rock as well. Like I can listen, like Rage Against the Machine is probably my favorite
I don't like this part of this.
rock.
No.
I'll listen to Limp Bizkit, all that as well. But then Metallica and all that, I listen to it all. There's
Yeah.
nothing that I'm not like, no, that's no good.
Mm.
The only one is really like the hardcore screaming. And if I was at a concert, I'd probably get into it anyway. Start screaming for everyone else. So there's nothing where I'm like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
The short of it is that we both love music. We love a good time. We've been to a fair bit of live music in the past year, and it's great.
yeah, it's been good.
That things are back and pumping, and but yeah, more often than not, we'll just sit at home and listen to music. And by the end of the night, I'm giving you a salsa lesson or something like that, samba lesson. Then I want to do the final segment. I can't believe this is really over. Oh, it's been a good chat. Words to live your week by. Words to live your week by. I would love for you to share with the listeners a quote or saying that you love, that you feel will benefit them.
I like The Man in the Arena, but
Yes.
it's really long and I don't remember it. Work hard in silence, let success be your noise has always been one coming from a small place, I suppose.
Yeah, right.
And that's, I suppose, because I've said this before and people are like, yeah, but you're on Instagram and stuff like that. It's not really that. It's like all your personal stuff that you don't, you keep behind that you're working hard of. And then all of a sudden people are, I didn't know you were doing that. It's more of that stuff, which is cool. And I bump into people now and it kind of resembles that. They're like, I didn't know you were doing that. Like, I haven't seen you for a year. And they're like, holy shit. And just stuff like that. So you don't have to go out and tell everyone about everything you're doing, I suppose. Just work hard at it. And usually if it's that good, they'll end up knowing about it anyway, I think.
Yeah, we've got a few things in the pipeline, but you've told, I've learned a lot from you just to sort of work hard in silence and we'll just let that all do the talking when it comes about. But yeah, there's plenty to be excited for. And
some cool stuff coming.
yeah, and I think that's, one of the things that I love, like doing life with you, is just it's always like we're so similar in the way that we're just always just trying new things and trying to keep things exciting and alive and make the most of this one precious life. And it's pretty cool doing it by your side. Yeah. Yep. But thank you for coming on today.
That's all right.
You're a busy man. I was able to lock you down. I'm surprised we didn't need a glass of wine to drink.
You hit it at the start.
I did. I was very nervous. But no, you did amazing, honey.
That's all right. Anytime.
Thanks for coming on. And I'll this is the final episode of season 1. This is episode 10.
Right.
So
It's gone fast.
yeah, it's gone super quick.
Yeah.
And it's been really fun. So we can't wait for season 2. We'll definitely be back next in a couple of weeks, really. Have a couple of weeks break and do it all over again and collate some pretty cool guests for next season. So thanks for listening and hope you enjoyed that episode. Bye.
I don't want just anybody. Let me treat you like somebody. Try to dive on a Rari. It's forever when